clarify specifically, have you taken a cognitive
No,
test?
I haven't taken a test. Why would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying you, before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump?
Look, here's the deal. Let me say this simply and clearly. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. You know how we talk about it. Are we the people? Folks, we gotta, it's just, but you gotta, I mean, we gotta reassure, look, here, my message to everybody I talk to is play the radio, make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone, make sure the kids hear word.
I know you said you have an ongoing assessment. Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
I get a full neurological test every day with me. And I've had a full physical. I had, I've been at Walter Reed for my physicals. I mean, yes, the answer is.
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
No, no one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do. You know, not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But we are the essential nation in the world. Madeleine Albright was right. And every single day, for example, today, before I come out here, I'm on the phone with the Prime Minister of, well, anyway, I shouldn't get into detail, but with Netanyahu.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about the mainstream liberal media reactions to Joe Biden's interview with George Stephanopoulos, who is a Democrat Party propagandist, with the goal of trying to rehabilitate Biden's image with the public, because now everybody has seen Biden for who he is, which is an old, senile man that is not cognitively fit enough to be president of the United States on the world stage at the CNN debate, a debate that was honestly rigged in his favor, but at the same time kind of wasn't, because Joe Biden actually had to talk. And when people heard Joe Biden talk, everybody saw that, hey, you know, this guy Joe Biden, he probably shouldn't be president of the United States, okay? This guy is just not in the right state of mind, okay? He should be in a nursery home. Now, here's the thing. Joe Biden has desperately tried to fend off calls for him to step down and to resign and to let somebody else take over, mainly Kamala Harris, okay? Biden says that he's going to be in this race, that he's going to beat Trump, okay? This is what he says. However, it seems as if Biden is having a hard time convincing the public that that is the case, which was the point of the George Stephanopoulos interview that seemed to have backfired, because it most certainly did not move the needle in Joe Biden's favor when it comes to the coverage from the mainstream liberal media, because they're now calling for Joe Biden to take a cognitive test, a test to test his mental capabilities and whether or not he can serve as president of the United States. Now, Biden says that, hey, I don't need to take a test. Although there are reports that Biden's doctor met with a neurologist that specializes in Parkinson's disease earlier this year. But according to Joe Biden, I don't need to take a test, okay? I'm not going to take an independent test, and that pisses the mainstream liberal media off. It actually pissed off CNN to the point where essentially they call Joe Biden delusional. They're saying that he's not in touch with reality for refusing to acknowledge the fact that, hey, something is wrong, and you keep making these excuses for it. But again, everybody can see that clearly the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor when it comes to Joe Biden at this point.
Did you see anything tonight, enough tonight, to change the view that he doesn't have it to run this race and win this election?
Well, the question is, did he change the minds of voters who were watching that? I don't really think so. You know, Jim, I think the thing, and some of it I found sad, but he seems not to be able to compute the fact that people have these questions about him. He said, when George Stephanopoulos asked him if he'd be willing to take a cognitive test, he said, I take a cognitive test every day. Well, the fact is that may be true, but 75% of the American people think he failed. That he fails. I mean, they've lost. And so this is a real problem for him, and it's something that shows up in every poll. And in terms of where he stands in the race, no politician out there will has the same perception that the president does, that this is a tied race and he's right in the hunt right now. He was 10 points ahead 4 years ago. He's 6 points behind now, worsens in most of the battleground states, and now in danger of losing states that weren't thought to be in contention. So what you see, Jim, you saw it in Wisconsin today. Tammy Baldwin, the senator from Wisconsin, wasn't at this event. Why? Because she's up for re-election, and it's not helpful to her to be seen with the president. This is what's going to happen, and somebody really needs to be honest with him about it. It's not. It can't be the good Lord, but it should be the people who love and care for him and his closest advisors. His portrait of where he is in this race doesn't comport with reality.
Yeah, so you're seeing that, you heard that, okay? This guy basically called Joe Biden delusional, right? In many, many, many words, he said that Joe Biden is not in touch with reality, a.k.a. he's delusional, okay? And, Biden refusing to take an independent cognitive test, I think definitely hurts him. He's not being transparent, okay? This administration claims to be the most transparent administration in history, but yet all we get from this administration is nothing but shadiness, right? They're hiding things, just like they've been hiding Biden this whole time. In the mainstream little media, they knew about it. They was just playing along with it until they couldn't deny it anymore without risking damaging their reputation even more. Not like they had a good reputation in the first place, but I mean, denying that Joe Biden has some issues upstairs, again, is like denying reality. And they couldn't deny reality any further, although this is what the Biden administration continues to do, okay? But people just aren't buying it, okay? The liberal media isn't buying it. And they're basically saying that, yeah, this interview with George Stephanopoulos by Joe Biden really did not help him out at all. In fact, it could have made things worse, which means that it probably kind of backfired. So without further ado, let's get into it.
For more, News Nation media contributor and the founding editor of Mediaite, Colby Hall, joining us this morning. Colby, great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's go back to the performance. Biden has said the debate was a bad night. He tried to quell that yesterday. Do you think he has assured voters that had concerns?
No.
Not at all.
Joe Biden is still old. In fact, he's older today than he was when the debate was. And it's clear to me, in the first 5 minutes of the interview, that the debate was not an outlier. There wasn't a bad performance. He is in some sort of cognitive decline, as a lot of aging people are. But he was dismissive. He was in denial. And I don't think that this stemmed a tide. I think it made matters worse.
Do you see any path for our president without taking a cognitive test to rally Democrats?
Yes. The only thing that he can do, I don't personally think that he's up for, but he needs to be out there. He needs to show energy. He needs to take tough questions from partisan opponents, and he needs to go out there. And the fact that this was what the White House was put forth to say, like, look, he's fine. George Stephanopoulos was a sympathetic figure, but he asked tough questions. And it's hard to imagine it getting better from this point forward.
No, I mean, it can't get better, right? I mean, it's only going to get worse. And, the funny part about it is that, again, Democrats are stuck with this, okay? Even if, Biden steps down or whatever, you got Kamala, who isn't much better. But, again, the problem with Joe Biden is that it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you continue to hide him away, then people are going to say, okay, there's problems. They're hiding the guy in the basement, which they did the whole 2020 campaign, okay? This is how far back these problems go. They knew about this in 2020, bruh. And, again, the mainstream media hit it. The Democrats hit it. Everybody hit it, right? Now that they can't hide it anymore, now the mainstream liberal media, they want to criticize it, right? They want to come out here and get ahead of it and demand that Biden take a cognitive test, right? But again, the reality is that even if they put Biden out here, okay, if they, put him into some of these interviews that are adversarial, like, for example, if Biden goes on Fox News, not only is he going to get cooked, but he's just not going to sound good, right? He doesn't look good. Biden looks old, right? That's the problem. So whatever comes out of his mouth, it sounds and it looks 10 times worse than what it is, even though it's pretty bad, just because he looks decrepit, right? He looks like he's 1 foot in the grave, okay? I'm just saying, he looks like he's severely on the decline, man. It's not just that Biden is mentally unfit, but he's also physically unfit, okay? He's moving very slowly. You know, I mean, I'm just saying, it looks bad, okay? It looks like elder abuse, and he's never going to be able to get around that. Biden is not all of a sudden going to get the fountain of youth. So it really is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And I'm enjoying it, right? I'm absolutely loving it.
Glad you mentioned that. I do want to talk about the optics of this interview. George Stephanopoulos, a former aide to Bill Clinton, he was somewhat sympathetic, would you say, to Biden? I don't think he was asking the tough questions.
Well, he was kind. He was
very
kind in
kind.
tone, but he did. I mean, I don't know if someone's asking you like, "What's up with your brain?"
Repeatedly.
Are you going to take a cognitive test? They were pointed. And he did it respectfully, but those are not the questions you want to have to answer if you're running for president. If your position is, I still got it, then you probably don't got it.
Colby, you analyze media for a living. Do you think this was the right strategy for the president to do this interview? Especially, but I mean, there were obviously rules set. It had to be taped. It was George Stephanopoulos, who was a friendly figure.
Well, I think the White House communications team has done an effective job of tightly producing a president that needs tight producing and keeping him out of public view. What we're seeing now is that's backfiring because this is the first time we're seeing in full view. So, you know, I don't think a 22-minute interview with George Stephanopoulos is nearly enough. And again, they're going to take the position that, of course, he's running. Only he can beat Trump. They're always going to take that strong position until they don't. And I suspect the next week is going to, we'll see this story move in a more significant way.
In what way?
I find it really implausible that he will stay on. I think there's going to be so much internal pressure within Democrats to say, dude, we love you, you did a good job, but we need a plan B. And the plan B is a whole other segment to discuss, and it will be a fact. We'll be living through history. We'll be watching in real time how the Democratic Party will be trying to figure out. I mean, this is my speculation, but it seems to be inevitable. That's how it's going to go.
Yeah, so again, this guy probably gets paid a few $100,000 for his little degree, okay, to tell you the exact same things I've been telling you guys, right? And we're living in history, and yeah, I mean, Democrats have a problem. I personally think that if Democrats do decide to replace Joe Biden, the plan B, it's going to have to be in a way that's more graceful than this, right? They can't just force him out by saying, oh, like, you're cognitively impaired. We're going to force you to step down, even though you don't want to. Again, I think that's going to be ugly. There's going to need to be some type of medical emergency, right? This is what I think is going to happen. I think if Biden does step down, it's going to be because he had some medical emergency that is like the last straw, right? Oh, this is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? That Biden had this emergency and he has to step down. That would be much more graceful than Biden being forced out, right? It's one thing for Biden to say, hey, I can't do it anymore because, again, I just had this medical thing that happened that's forcing me out of the race. Much more graceful than, well, I'm resigning because all the donors decided they're not giving me money anymore and half my party is revolting against me, right? So it's going to have to be set up in a way that's like a finesse to essentially give Biden a soft landing, right? So, again, if he does drop out, which, you know, hey, I'm still skeptical about this idea of Joe Biden dropping out. I think they're stuck with Biden. I don't think Kamala gives them a better chance than Biden. But who knows? They may just be like, you know, we're going to roll the dice with Kamala. And if they do roll the dice with Kamala, I want to note that this is something I've basically been talking about for a year now, that if Biden is replaced, it's going to be Kamala. But they're going to have to engineer it in a way that will get the consensus of the whole party, because you still got people in there that are holding on to Biden, right? They're saying, no, Biden has to be the guy. And then you got other people trying to move on to other candidates. But again, it has to be done in a way that promotes unity. Okay, it can't be done in the way that is happening right now, which is, again, forcing Joe Biden out. It has to be done in a different way. And I think that's ultimately what will happen if Joe Biden does choose to drop out. It will be in a way that's kind of graceful, and he will need some real excuse to do it, right? So don't be surprised if the Democrats engineer something in order to push Biden out, because the pressure appears to be growing like crazy. And the liberal media, they are unrelenting. They want Biden out. Okay, so everybody's against him at this point. I'm not sure how much longer Joe Biden can actually hold out. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.